what's your wife's name again, Andrew? I forgot.
Taylor.
Taylor, that's it. Taylor Swift. I had it in my mind, and I
It's like, oh, if only there was a global superstar with the name Taylor, but I can't think of any.
Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Odyssey podcast, episode 241. Yes, we are motoring towards 250. And what did we say 5 years was going to be, Pete? That was 260, wasn't it? Is the 5-year anniversary. That's yes. 5 years, I think. Yeah, yes. Okay, doing the maths quickly. And we are joined by a very special guest all the way from Texas in the USA today, who I will introduce you to in a second. First of all, I'll just touch base with Mr. Peter Lant, who's in Somerset in Bath. How are you doing, Pete?
I'm doing very well. I'm just looking at your background. There's a guy I watch on YouTube, Minty's, what's it called? Minty's Comedic Arts or something. And it's like the odd 20, he's an Australian guy and he does like 20-minute videos on 10 things you didn't know about this film and that film and like lots of popular culture sort of stuff. And you've got a similar background to his, I've just realized.
He's got
all like pop culture stuff all over the back. So I think you've copied him. But anyway,
all around me here. Yeah. And it's lovely. We just said, actually, it's gorgeous. Well, the blue sky here in England, where I am in England anyway. And it's close. It's quite cold still, though. It was freezing cold this morning. And it's nice where you are in Bath as well, isn't it?
It's great. I've been out in a t-shirt today, but then I'm from Newcastle, so I can handle it.
And we will find out in a minute what the weather's like in Texas when we go there for our weather report. But okay.
Hot and sunny. Hot and sunny.
So we are joined today by Mr. Andrew Burton. How are you doing, Andrew?
Wonderful.
Excellent. Well, it's lovely. I first met Andrew in Iceland last year. He was competing at the Magnus Classic there. And came third in that, which was it was a really strong lineup as well there. And Andrew is also the world's strongest firefighter. I think that was 2023. Did that one? I'm getting the nod. And is a strongman from Texas in America and a full-time firefighter as well. So we're going to meet Andrew and talk to Andrew today. But yeah, it was quite funny. We met at the airport in Iceland. And then I basically ended up being Andrew's chauffeur for the weekend and driving him around everywhere. And he was like a co-pilot for me, sat next to me, giving me directions in Iceland, which was because I was driving on the wrong side of the road and in a big old manual bus, which I hadn't done for years and years. So we're gonna find out about Andrew and everything about him. But Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. And I know it's in the morning for you there. So what is the weather like in Texas today?
Spring is officially sprung in Texas, but we've got our nice weather right now, so we try to enjoy it while it's here.
So it's nice weather. It's not too hot, because I know it can get sort of swelteringly hot, can't it?
I know we use different metrics and stuff, but here it's about 70 degrees, 70, 80 degrees.
Okay, in Fahrenheit. Okay, and I don't know. I'm gonna just quickly.
It's not. Do you know what? If you do kilograms to pounds, that's fairly easy. But you can get a ballpark figure, but Fahrenheit and Celsius, I've got no idea.
So I've just done 70 degrees Fahrenheit is about 21 degrees Celsius. So it's nice. It's probably like a nice summer's day in England, you know. In Texas.
Well, for me, it's too hot.
Summer's coming. Summer's coming, and then it's I don't even know what that's going to be in Celsius. It'll be over 100 degrees.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Brian, who I speak to in Arizona, said I think it gets up to like 140 or something in Fahrenheit, which is like, you know, it's like 45 degrees or something like that Celsius. It's just
yeah. No, it's yes, different level of heat. We never have to worry about that too much in England. So Andrew, I mean, first of all, maybe, I know, like I said, little brief intro there about the firefighting and the comps and things like that, but maybe to begin with, if you can just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and about kind of growing up and growing up in America and the kind of maybe any sports that you did growing up or how you got into kind of training and physical training and then into strongman and things. If that's all right, you just start telling your story and we can kind of ask questions as we go, if that's okay.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
My fitness journey really didn't start until about 12 years old, and that's going to be in school time. So the way it works in Texas, most everybody starts in football. So you play football, you're on the team, and then there's an off season. Off season is whenever you make your way to the gym and then start working on athletic movements for the next season. So I started in football on the team sport, and then we moved over to the off season, which is kind of more individual based. So it's basically your PRs and how you're progressing as an athlete. Uh, Fast forward till 13, I was the first person in my school to squat 300 pounds at a young age. We were deadlifting about similar weights, but deadlifting wasn't the norm. And then they let us have a mock powerlifting meet against each other. And that's whenever I fell in love with powerlifting and strength sports specifically. Well, then we moved on to be 15 years old, and then they added track into that. So then I began throwing for the track team, shot put and discus. And funny thing with that is over the 40 years of throwing shot put, as I got stronger, my throw kept getting shorter and shorter by about a foot every year. And I attributed that to probably because as I got stronger, I got less mobile and just we didn't have a real coach to teach us how to throw. So we were learning off YouTube videos at the time. We were learning from articles that we could find online. But during that whole process, I powerlifted all through high school, which was for us is 4 years. It's the last 4 years that you do where you don't pay to go to school. And I love powerlifting so much. I did really well in it. And my senior year, I dropped to the 242-pound weight class and competed at state. And ended up getting disqualified for, I'm going to say, my bench press. I locked out 515 all 3 times, but I lock out very uneven. And in powerlifting, if you don't lock out even, you don't get your reps. So I would have been fourth in the state at that time, and I would have had the deadlift world record for high school at that time too.
So you get disqualified for the whole competition if you don't kind of get a green light for one of the lifts. Yeah, you kind of you go okay.
Yeah, if you get
so even if you'd won the deadlift and you'd won the squat, if you fail all 3 lifts on the bench, you get disqualified.
I never even got to get to the deadlift because you squat first, your bench is second, and then your deadlift is third. You have to go in that order. So if you get scratched on one of these, you don't make it to the next part.
Oh wow, okay.
I've got a quick question. You were squatting
300 pounds.
300 pounds at 13 years old. So were you just, because we had a guy called Paddy Haynes on who you might know, you might have heard of. He was on a couple of weeks ago, and he grew up on a farm, so he was he was tall, but he wasn't really big, but he was super strong because he grew up on a farm. So you're squatting 300 pounds at 12 years old or 13 years old,
13 to 14.
So were you
so just for people in kilos, that's about 136 kilos. So that's a lot of weight. Yeah, just
so I tried to memorize kilos before we got here. It did not work.
Were you naturally I mean, obviously naturally strong, but were you like bigger than everyone else? Were you right? Okay, just to kind of put it in perspective, you know.
Yeah, I was a big boy. I stayed over. I mean, by that point in time, I was probably over 240 pounds already. I was a big kid. I stayed around 300 pounds through most of high school. It wasn't until senior year I dropped down that 242 range. I wanted to look good. I wanted to feel healthy. And it kind of pushed me into my firefighting career because I needed to lose weight to be able to go and do the job. So.
Excellent. And you mentioned about the throwing. As you got stronger, your throwing actually got shorter. I mean,
discus stayed the same, but shot put kept going down.
Because I don't know if you know Dan John at all. He's a coach, a strength coach. Okay, so he's a strength coach from America, and he's a discus thrower as well. And he always says about there's certain exercises that, I mean, he holds, I think he holds like state records, maybe national records still, but for discus, he was very, very good. And he said that you know, there's certain exercises that, yeah, you can keep getting stronger in the gym, but if it doesn't translate to improved athletic performance, then he's because he sort of says this, you need to be a certain level of strong to be able to do things better. But when you just focus on getting stronger, sometimes your performance on the track and the field actually comes down. But like you said, you were so in love with powerlifting at that stage that really you were more interested in keep getting stronger. Yeah, okay.
At
So
18, I was benching 500 pounds, so consistently.
at what age, sorry?
At 18,
At 18. Wow, okay. Just bear me a second. There'll be a few pauses in this podcast.
okay.
Okay, that's 227.5 kilos, yeah, on a bench press, yeah. Okay, when you were 18. Wow. Okay. And then what happened? Did you go to, because like you said, you're in high school, those last 4 years of school where you're not paying to go to school, and then in America you switch over to the kind of the college system. Did you go to college as well after that?
I did not. My family's not the most well off. I went off and got a job, and I worked on farms. I worked on ranches, did odd jobs around town, mowed yards, worked at a butter factory at one point.
Hmm.
So I just was helping contribute to the household. We didn't have the money. I had intended to go to college if powerlifting had transitioned into a scholarship, but I got zero offers. I guess after getting disqualified at state, it kind of just took away took away everything from me, all the steam out of me. So I didn't get any opportunity to go to college, and
Hmm.
so I just progressed and went into the workforce.
Mm. Yeah, because I suppose so is powerlifting a collegiate sport in America? You can go, you can get a scholarship to go to,
Absolutely.
yeah, wow, okay, fantastic. And it's meant you just mentioned working on farms and ranches. I'm deep into watching
Yeah.
Yellowstone at the moment, so so I'm watching loads of the rodeos and all the ranches and all that kind of stuff, which is amazing. Because I know that's big in Texas as well, isn't it? Where you you know where you are. Cool. So firefighting then, how did that when did that decision, you know, when did that first come onto your radar? Like you said, you're a big, strong, fit, athletic guy. What kind of made the connection with firefighting or opened that up as a possible career kind of avenue?
Well, after not getting into college, I was, racking my brain to figure out what type of career I would go in that would, two things, that something I could live with and do for 30 years, and number two, something that would be able to pay the bills.
Mm,
And there's only so long that you can work at a butter factory, do all these other odd jobs and things for, pennies on the dollar, especially for large corporations. So I thought maybe I'd want to work for a government. And a lot of our fire departments and police, departments are government run, but at the local level.
mm,
And I was thinking to myself, that's a good way to be able to get good insurance. It's a good way to have a good retirement. So that way you work your 30 years and then you're able to, live the life that you want to.
mm,
And so public service was always on my mind. I initially thought I might be a police officer and had, a really nice conversation with myself about how I did not have the mental capacity nor the attitude to be a police officer. And so I was
in what way,
looking at,
Andrew? Can I just ask, in what way what made you turn away
I,
from that as a,
I can't deal with, I can barely deal with people asking me to repeat myself more than twice.
yeah.
So I can't imagine having to deal with people or dealing with people that are always lying to you. I don't do well with that. If
Yeah.
I know you're lying to you, I'm going to tell you right to your face. I've always been blunt. I don't play the game. The game's not fun for me. I
Yeah.
like to know where I'm at with people, and I like people to know where they're at with me. So police work was just not for me.
Mm,
But firefighting, that sounded like something I could do. Something where you use your body as your tool to make your money, where you got to train extensively to learn skills and apply skills to actual situations and working individually, but also with a team.
mm,
And sports taught me that I could do both very well. You have to learn to follow to be a good leader, and that makes good leaders in and of itself.
mm,
So firefighting had opportunities to be a good follower and then also to transition into an officer position to lead your groups. So firefighting really became the field that I was going to pursue. And I got into school, got my EMT here in the States. You have to be a firefighter. You also have to be a EMT or a paramedic, some form of medical trained individual. So I got all that done. Went to school, finished school, and then started applying for jobs. And it took me 3+ years to find my first career. So in the midst of all that, I was working at delivering pizzas, working at the butter factory, worked at a movie theater, and still working those odd jobs. So the longer it went on, the more I realized how much I really wanted to have a career and not have to work 16 hours a day to make ends meet.
Yeah, yeah. And so, how old were you when you got your first kind of posting, I presume, or you got your first first job in firefighting?
But I think I was 22.
Okay, fantastic. And then how does it work? So you get the job, and then you have to go through extensive training, or you yeah you
It depends. It depends. And there are departments that have their own school that you go through when you get on. So I've been fortunate enough, I guess I would say that I really like the way that my career's transitioned and progressed. I worked for a very small rural department in a one of the only county departments that you can find in Texas that is paid. There were only two of us. When I got on, I had 6 months of experience from part-time work I was doing with a city that was nearby, and I got hired on full time with them, and was essentially came in as a driver. A driver is typically a step up from the firefighter position, but because there was only two of us, we did all the jobs.
Mm.
And we managed 11 volunteer fire departments. So a bunch of unpaid individuals, people who don't necessarily have certifications, just people who want to serve their community. And so when we got dispatched to a call, they would dispatch with us. So we would be the paid people coming in, and we would run the show.
Mm.
And the
That
show it
sounds a
was.
bit
It sounds
like
really
The
dangerous.
show
Like
it was.
you take yeah. Sorry, Pete. Go on.
what
You
it
probably keep
sounds like. Have you ever
his
seen
name.
the film Roxanne?
No, I
Yeah.
haven't seen that one.
Right, Roxanne. It's with Steve Martin, and that's like they're in I can't remember where they are. They're in a town somewhere in the States, and that sounds like how the fire department there is run. There's like one guy in
Yeah.
charge, and the rest of them are are kind of volunteers.
Volunteers, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
it's
that
a great
sounds like
film.
if
You should
you're
watch it.
because if you're yeah, because that's yeah, it's Steve. Because how old are you, Andrew? Now
I'm about to be 33.
33. Yeah, because
Oh, yeah.
that came out probably about 1987 or something. I
Yeah,
Oh,
think.
I
it's
wasn't even born yet.
No,
It's,
no.
yeah, it's based on Cyrano de Bergerac. It's a great film.
Yeah, Steve Martin, Daryl Hannah, I think it is. But yeah, so because I mean that sounds really dangerous, taking essentially volunteers into something that's very dangerous. You know.
Well, the most dangerous part was taking a bunch of 20-year-olds who think that they're invincible. So I ended up within the first 6 months of my working there, my officer retired and went to another department, and I became that officer. So I had 6 months of full-time experience, about a year of experience in the fire service. And granted, I had done that volunteering service for a year or so before that. So I had time in the fire service, but nobody with 2 years of fire experience should be running crews. So I got very nervous when I became that officer for that department. I started to learn and pull in people who could help me and teach me things at a much faster rate. And the people you were getting as your crew members were also 20 years old. So having to deal with their transition out of high school, their transition from college, or just the lack of awareness from young people,
Mm,
and being responsible for them not being dead at the end of the day. That was tough. It was a hard thing to swallow,
mm,
and something I took very seriously in the fire service, and that really, I think, molded me in the service to be where I am today.
mm. And where is that? What happened from that rural kind of start that you had with that very much kind of like just two of you full time, lots of volunteers. What? How did that progress? How did the career progress from there?
I went and got my paramedic certification, which is generally the thing that kind of progresses you out of the smaller departments, and went to a place called Rockwall, which is where I work now. Applied, actually had to move to the location for a year, volunteer with them just to get to know them. They were still a small department, although their city's much larger. They're still a small department, and so they were doing things still very old school. So I volunteered with them for a year, got to know them, was allowed to participate in their hiring process, and lo and behold, there were 4 people for 3 jobs. So the odds were pretty high that I was going to get hired.
Mm.
One of the guys dropped out at the end of the testing process, and so I got hired, and that's where I've been since.
Mm.
But I did 5 years at that rural fire department in Hopkins County as an officer, and then transitioned to Rockwall, where I'm now a driver and have been a driver, I think, for 7 years.
Excellent. And you do have I mean, I know from spending time with you, and probably the listeners can hear already, you do have a very calm demeanor. You've got a very kind of calm, steady demeanor. And do you manage to maintain that through your work as well? I mean, do you have to have that really helps with your career? Yeah.
Having witnessed people who can't control the panic or quell the nerves, what ends up happening is you can't understand them. And that becomes so much more dangerous in the long run. If I can't tell what you're saying, or if I can't read your body language, or if I can't follow along with your train of thought, I can't help you.
Yeah.
And so I learned from experience, from watching others, that maintaining composure is the key to staying alive a lot longer in the service, or to
Mm.
not being injured, or to helping others better. It's so much better for the public for us to be calm, cool, and collected. And I think a lot of people in strongman see me at these contests, and I'm not the hype monster. I don't need to scream and do things and beat my chest before I go up. I like to be calm and cool. And when I see other people do that, I go, wow, that guy's got it under control. He's going to be able to technically and soundly execute this lift. And that's how I like to be. I want to look technically professional. I want to be calm and be in the moment, so I don't have to
Mm.
consciously think about what's happening. Unconsciously, I've done these all so many times. So if I just stay calm, that comes out. And
Mm.
for me, that's how it works. I'm just calm. I was calm before anyways, but I'm more
Yeah.
calm now.
It sounds like what you said about, like, becoming a police officer or a firefighter. Like you like what you've just said there is great, because you said, you like to know people and you like people to know you. And then, like, you need to be able to know what they're thinking to be able to help them and all that sort of stuff. So that all comes out of being empathetic, I suppose, as well. But the thing is, your central nervous system must be getting a battering like all the time when you're
Always.
firefighting. So a strongman competition is easy in comparison, I suppose, isn't it?
It
Like, no,
can
but
be, unless you do OSG 10 days after the Magnus.
yeah, but that's a choice.
That was a choice and a
Because
bad
that's
one.
what I was going to say, something similar to Pete, actually, that, doing what you do on a daily basis, whether that be attending like a traffic accident and cutting people out of cars and things, or, going into burning buildings, or whatever you have to do, you know, I think the nerves of competition or the nerves of performance are what get to a lot of people. But when you do that kind of thing in your day job, I presume, I'm not saying you don't get nervous at all, but stepping up to do some deadlifts or a log press, you know, compared to risking your life on a daily basis, I presume you can have that perspective, can't you? And you can
Yes.
stay calm. Yeah, yeah. Fantastic.
It's
And how have you found training? So I presume, I mean, like you said, it enables you. It's a very physical job, obviously, but I suppose we'll talk about this actually. The world's strongest firefighter that you did and that you won at the Arnold's, I think, in Columbus, wasn't it? It was in 2023. Because I sent Pete a picture before we came on of you with Arnold, I think, when you won that, and you had an axe, which I presume is like the trophy for the thing. I mean, are all of your firefighter colleagues and things into their fitness and their training and their strength? Probably not to the extent that you are, but
they are.
yeah. Oh,
There's
they are. Okay,
there's
fantastic.
people that are just as into it as I am, and I'll tell you exactly why. That is our therapy. After you see all these things, after you hear all these words, after you experience all these emotions, if there is no outlet, there are problems. And firefighters are notorious for divorces, They're notorious for addictions, including alcohol. You know, firefighters also have problems with suicide. I can't speak for all those people, but I would say that maybe they didn't have the best outlet and maybe they didn't have the help they needed. The gym for me is my therapy. That's how I keep sane. It's how I keep the noise down inside my head. Whenever your muscles are sore and you're tired, all the noise just gets turned way down. That's something I think a lot of people are missing. You hear people talk about they can't turn their minds off. Well, I don't have that problem. I don't have enough glucose in my body to keep my mind on.
So do you have a gym at the fire station that you use? Do you train there? Yeah, yeah. So when you're there, just sort of like waiting for, you're there on shift and you're waiting for a call or whatever. You don't know what the day. I suppose that's the thing. You never know what the day is gonna throw at you. Do you train a lot while you've kind of got downtime while you're at work?
I do, and I'm really fortunate with my crew. They let me do what I need to do, and that's between cardio, between stretching, between warm ups, between active sets and stuff. I might spend 3 hours trying to get a workout done, especially if we're being interrupted a lot. And I say interrupted in terms it's really not an interruption. It's just part of the job. But especially with the weights that I lift, you can't just walk in there and reload the squat bar up to what it is. So one 15-minute call could just be I have to take 4 plates off and start over again. And sometimes I have a 3 times you're out rule. So if you try to accomplish a workout or something and you get pulled away from it 3 times in about a 3 hour period, you're just not going to get it done. The cars just they're not working for you today, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And I typically still walk, I still stretch because those things you can do in those minutes between calls. And I don't worry about it too much. I'm still strong. That one workout's not going to change the next 6 months.
Mm.
And so I think a lot of firemen experience that. That's why that firefighter contest is so special to us because the people we're competing with are having the same problems that we are. I think a lot of the athletes in the open and some of these other contests, they don't really understand quite what firefighters have to go through to be able to recover, to be able to train efficiently.
Mm.
So,
And is there anyone else in the fire station that's kind of not, near to you in terms of what they're lifting and things like that? I mean, you have like people that you train with on your like training partners and things, or are you like so far ahead strength wise that you kind of do your own thing almost?
I think there's a little intimidation with that. I haven't had a training partner since high school. So we're talking about 15 years now. People come in, come out, but I mean, they don't usually last more than a couple sessions. Most people won't stay there the amount of time that I'll stay there. Nobody at my fire station is as strong as I am, but they're all in very good shape. And
Mm.
so we all have different things that we are capable. I say we're capable of. We're all capable of the same thing, but we're all useful at other things. So some of the guys are smaller than I am, so they're the people that are going to go to the roof. I've got more years of experience, so I'm the one that's going to manage all the equipment and make sure they have what they need and watch them from afar to make sure they're being safe. We all bring something new to the table and everybody's fitness is similar but different. So really just the size of people, you don't want all firemen to look exactly the same. You don't want all firemen to look like me. You don't want me walking around your roof. That's not good for the roof. I've fallen through more roofs than I care to admit. So
I suppose
climbing,
yes. Kind of,
climbing up a tree rescuing a cat. It'd be like
I
just
typically
pull the
hold the
branch
ladder. Yeah, because most people don't want their trees to get destroyed either.
I was gonna say it's kind of like the Avengers or something. You got like the Hulk, and you've got Iron Man, and you've got like everyone's got their own strengths and their own thing that they bring to it. No, that's fantastic. So the actual strongest firefighter, the world's strongest firefighter competition at the Arnold's at Columbus, Ohio. How did that come about? Did you have to kind of qualify through kind of regional competitions first, or do you just enter? I mean, what's the pathway to that for you?
Arnold puts that show on because he loves first responders. He worked with them firsthand during his time as governor in California. And there is no qualification process. You can sign up as long as you're willing to pay your way out to the Arnold. you can come and compete. There is a prelim to get into the final part of the show, so it's just a 2-day contest. The first day is the prelims, where let's say there's 200 athletes go through the prelims to get knocked down to the top 20, and from there the top 20 go on to do the show on the big stage, and then compete for the title of World's Strongest Firefighter. But there is no qualification process, which I think is great. They're just trying to give a place where firefighters can have a goal to compete for, have a reason to keep their fitness up, or to change and do something different in their fitness regime for the time. And it gives us all a place to go and meet people from other cities, other departments, and at some points other countries. I think they had some competitors from Taiwan this year, which was really cool. Just fun to get to meet people from around the world who are doing the same thing we are.
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, we had, because last week we had a guy on called Pete Linnett who was born with spina bifida, and he competes in disabled strongman and bench pressing and powerlifting and that sort of thing. And he won out at the Arnold's the kind of disabled strongman event, but it was a few years ago, I think now. But we kind of said to him last week that we were going to be speaking to you this week, and then that was kind of a connection, you know, between the Arnolds out in Columbus, Ohio. So Arnold really seems, because he said that he really sort of spent time. He met him again in London, I think, and he kind of came and talked to him and spent time with him and stuff. So it really seems like, I mean, I know he does a lot with like the Special Olympics and stuff for children with special needs, doesn't he? And like you say, if he seems, it's like he's got a real passion for, like you say, the first responders and for the disabled athletes and things. What was it like meeting him when you won?
Really surreal. I don't get starstruck really, in a sense. Arnold and I'd gotten to meet Ronnie Coleman in the back just moments before that too. So
Wow.
really, I was trying to live in the moment, and I wasn't necessarily certain I had won, but I had a good inclination that had happened. And then just trying to understand all the things that were behind me. At one point, he had a trophy in his hand, and I didn't know it was his trophy, the one that he keeps on his desk with our names.
Oh,
And I tried
okay.
to take it out of his hand, and he got a little mad at me. But uh, it was fun that he came up. He said, "You made those hydrants look like they weighed 5 pounds," and it was fun to have something that he said to me. He gave me 2 or 3 minutes, just him and I to conversate, and he didn't have to do that. He could have just addressed the crowd, addressed all of us, and done that. But he took time to personally talk to me, and I'll cherish those memories for forever.
Yeah. And what was because you said, and I did see a clip of you lifting like fire hydrants and stuff, like you said, you just mentioned. So are the events kind of specifically trying to be a bit more sort of fire related, or they're kind of a bit more
They're
bit different?
themed.
Fire sort of themed. Yeah. So what kind of things did you have to do to win that competition?
I think the ones that were specifically themed firefighters was the ambulance tire deadlift for reps, the fire hydrants specifically, and then we had a axe hold, like a lateral hold, one of the crucifix holds.
Yeah.
They had fire axes that they had put weights on the bottom.
Ah,
Those
okay.
were the very specific, like actual firefighting tools that they
Yeah.
use in the Strongman contest.
Because that's quite nice, because that kind of obviously it does help for spectators and for the
Yeah,
theatre of it and for the theme of it. No, that sounds excellent. Yeah.
makes us makes us more comfortable too, because it's all implements and things that we touch all the time.
Yeah. Oh no, that's great. Yeah. So whereas instead of maybe lifting anvils and things that you might have, yeah, you had these heavy, huge cast iron fire hydrants. Yeah. No, that's great. And what did you do? Obviously, leading up to that event. I mean, did you start competing at kind of like local shows and smaller shows? I mean, and you were doing that for a number of years beforehand, or
I think World's Strongest Firefighter was my third contest. My
okay.
first one was in 20. I'm trying to get this right. 22 at the Europa. That doesn't sound right. Maybe 21. 21 at the Dallas Europa. It was a 2-day contest. It was my first ever contest. It was 2 days. Amateur. Not sure why it was like that. It was one of the ones I got into to see if I wanted to do this sport. I actually ended up tearing the muscle off my foot on the first event of the first implement of the first day. And my wife got all her stuff together and was ready to leave. And I was like, where are you going? She was like, well, we're done, right? I went, no, I'm going to finish this. I'm going to see this through, because I trained for it.
Yeah.
Did that contest, got like sixth,
Hmm.
which not bad for for learning it on the fly and having an injury that bad. And then the second one I did was at Battle Axe Barbell. I think I got ninth there with there were some really strong guys there. And then I'm pretty sure the strongest firefighter just kind of came up on my radar. I think I saw it on the internet and was like, wow, that sounds really cool. And so I was like, you know what, just sign up for it and let's see if we can get there. I did that, and that's really the contest that kind of skyrocketed me and brought me into the sport completely. I was sold after that.
And did you go to the firefighter one with like any what would you say?
Expectations.
Expectations of winning or anything, or was it just going for the experience? Yeah,
I
okay.
just wanted to make the top 10.
Okay.
That's it. I wanted to make it through the prelims. I wanted to be in the top 10. Didn't care if I got to the last day and was the 10th place guy. Didn't matter to me. And the way that they do that contest is as you progress through, they don't tell you the points. And I really hadn't learned how to count points yet anyways. And they weren't really telling us our placings, and I don't listen. Like when the judge is telling you your time, it doesn't even matter. It's not like I can change it. So I don't need that input. I'm just trying to live in the moment, get ready for the next event, think about what's next, which is generally eating, drinking, getting warmed up for whatever the event is. So yeah, it's I had no expectation, and whenever I realized I'd won, I was standing on the stage and was looking at my wife, and she was kind of just nodding, and she had a big old smile on her face, and I was like, man, I must have done it.
That's fantastic. And yeah, because you mentioned well, you didn't mention, but you mentioned injuring your foot, obviously in the first competition. But then when you were at the Magnus last year, the very first event, I think on the very first stone, are your hands all healed
First
now?
known.
Yeah, the very first stone, it was a natural stone lifting event outside, and there was snow on the floor. It was absolutely freezing. And you picked up the stone and you kind of skinned one of your fingers on the stone, didn't you? You kind of tore all the.
Took the whole fingertip off, all the skin, and what the thought process was is that I had got my hands sweaty trying to keep them warm in my coat,
Yeah.
and grabbed the stone, and it was so cold that it froze the skin all the way down, like all the way to the bottom layer, and then it just pulled off. So it was essentially frostbite that I did to myself. And so it didn't bleed until I knew something was off with it, and I saw it and I was like, golly. And then I walked inside where it was warm. And as soon as we got into the warmth, it started dripping. And I was like, oh boy.
Because then that obviously played that. I mean, that affected you. I know you know you try and put it to the back of your mind and you work around it as best you can. But that was a nasty injury on your fingers, which obviously you have to use to grip everything.
Would have been nice for it not to have happened.
Yeah, yeah. And you had to put up with that for the whole, and that was a 3-day competition, wasn't it? I think it was 3 days, 3 events per day. And on the very first event, on the very first day, you did that to your hands. So again, I suppose that's another testament to you being able to just sort of stay cool and just, not kind of panic and just to kind of work through it. Because in between every event, you were getting it kind of patched up and dealt with, weren't you? Yeah.
It would keep on bleeding every time, you'd I'd end up ripping the Band-Aid off. And we just got to the point where we were super glued it and then put a little tape over the top of it to keep it from rubbing just real bad. So the super glue helped keep all the skin and stuff intact for the duration of the contest. But man, what a pain.
And then you went and you won the arm over arm pull, didn't you? Which was incredible.
Yeah. And I at that point I had multiple injuries to the hand too. I ended up with something else too. I think the other finger got jacked up. I don't even remember what on.
Yeah. Oh dear, mate. No, it was incredible. And so, and then you went and you had you mentioned you had like a bad showing at the OSG, the official Strongman Games, which was only 10 days after. Because you came third at the Magnus Classic, which was fantastic out of and I think it was Mateusz Kieliszkowski was first. Was it Shane Flowers? Did Shane come second?
I don't think it was Shane. I think it was like was it Tristan?
Oh, Tristan Hoth. Yeah, Tristan Hoth from
Tristan.
Canada. He came second. Sorry.
I think Shane fourth?
Yeah, maybe fourth. Yes, yeah, and you were third, and then Shane was probably after you. Yeah, but you, yeah. So that was, that's a really strong lineup of people there. So I know you said to finish third in that lineup and in that competition with that. I mean, how was that for you competing, because Magnus even said that that was the coldest and the windiest and the kind of worst conditions they'd had ever for that competition. I mean, and you came over from Texas, and suddenly you're like in the most like appalling conditions to lift in. But how did you find that?
You just turn your brain off to the uncomfortable part of it. We all seem like we tried to hide during the day whenever the contest was over. We weren't hanging out outside for long, but I put on more layers than I've ever worn of clothes in my entire life. I had almost every pair of pants on that I owned.
Yeah.
You just push it out of the mind, and you do what you know how to do.
Yeah.
If it affects you, it affects you. That's just
Yeah.
you can't control Mother Nature. Mother Nature controls what we do.
Yeah. I mean, I'd imagine though those stones were absolutely like I mean, they were like blocks of ice, weren't they? Jagged, sharp blocks of
They
ice.
were painful to hold.
Yeah.
I think the worst one was the Hercules hold, because it was a metal handle.
Yeah.
And my hands hurt for, I think, 15 straight minutes after that. I couldn't get them to stop hurting just from the cold. Like the cold made them hurt on the like in the bones.
Yeah.
And man, that took a long time to get over.
And that's an event that you just have to hold there for as long as you can without letting go.
You stay there until you're done.
Yeah. Okay. What's this sounding like to you, Pete? You fancy having a go?
It sounds lovely. Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, I like the way you said you put all your pants on and stuff like that. It's like, where do you go in Texas? Like, right, I'm off to Iceland. Have you got any clothes that are suitable? Like,
We had to buy a bunch.
It was basically like sort of skiing wear, wasn't it? It was like kind of skiing wear you had to wear out there. It was so cold. Yeah, dearie me. And then the OSG you went to didn't go according to plan 10 days later. Do you think it was just too close to the Magnus, or just things
Oh,
didn't?
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Adrenal fatigue. I've only felt true adrenal fatigue twice in my life, and it was OSG and a random time back in the day whenever I wouldn't be able to explain it to anybody, but I've heard people say that they don't even believe adrenal fatigue exists. Man, you can only dump so much of that hormone in a given period of time. And when your nervous system is fried, because the nervous system doesn't have a blood supply, it just takes so long to heal. And I didn't have enough time between all that to make that happen. No matter what I did everything I normally do to recover. I walked, I ate well, I slept well. It just could not overcome the trashing that my nervous system had already taken. And when there came time to compete at OSG, I mean, even the first warm up rep, when I went and picked it up, I went, oh man, there's nothing in the tank. Just felt like you were just going through the motions. And so I managed a lot of decent reps on a lot of the equipment. I'm still happy with. There were some things that are still PRs and all that came from OSG, but I know in my heart that the result would have been a lot different if I had gone there in the same shape that I'd been in for the Magnus. And
Yeah.
so it's always a hard pill to swallow, especially with having so much success that year and really being on the cusp of pushing in and knowing that OSG is the place where everybody's really watching. And so I feel like I kind of set myself back a year, and which is fine. It just gives me more time to be more statically strong, to get faster at events. It won't be a problem. I allotted more than 5 years to see where I can make it in strongman, and I'm just going to continue on. So we're on like year 3.
And then how much time was it between the OSG? Because I think that was in December, wasn't it? That was like early December, maybe.
Yes.
So then you went to the Arnolds. That was only a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? So you had what, maybe
3 months,
2.5, 3 months, yeah.
yeah, 2.5 is probably right.
Yeah. So you think you fully obviously recovered in that period?
I don't necessarily think that nervous system was fully recovered. It still felt off. I was feeling off all the way up to the Arnolds. I almost canceled the Arnolds like 3 or 4 times just because I was like, man, I can't seem to like get out of the brain fog. I just don't feel like me. And but I was like, you know what? I've done the training. Last year I got 2nd place. Like this is the first year it's gonna be the pro-am. I want to be involved. I want to go to the Arnold. And I was like, let's just go and compete. And even getting there, I still didn't feel right. It's just I can't. I know my nervous system really well, and I can feel it. I tell people that all the time. I feel like athletes have this way of being able to propriocept their bodies just better than the average individual, and I can feel my nervous system. So like I know when it's been dampened, when it's not working efficiently, and for that 3 months, it just still hadn't. It just hadn't. The fire hadn't got lit back up yet. But after the Arnold, which obviously the Arnold went great, even with whatever was going on with me, we managed. We did what we needed to. We got out. But the last couple weeks, I really started to feel like I'm starting to feel like me again. So, which is nice.
We talk about the central nervous system a lot on here, don't we, Pete? And with other coaches who come on, and the amount that, and I mean, just for regular people lifting regular weights in the gym, going as hard as they can, it still has a knock on the central nervous system for a number of weeks afterwards. But doing something like that 3-day event in Iceland in the freezing cold, like when you say, when you're literally getting freezing and then you're warming up, then you're freezing, then you're warming up, and you're lifting these huge weights. I mean, yeah, that must have taken a huge hit on the body. And then obviously traveling there, traveling back, you know, the changing time zones, all of this kind of thing going on.
Traveling stuff. The
Yeah.
traveling stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and then but this year you went back, so you did go to the Arnold's, the Pro-Am, and you won. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you won that competition, which is amazing. And then I think, if I'm right, that then gets you a place next year in the kind of the big show at the Arnold's, doesn't it? Where you'll be against people like, you know, Hafthor Bjornsson and Mitch Cooper and all those kind of guys, you know. And so that's the big one. How are you feeling about the prospect of being there next year?
How am I feeling about the prospect of getting absolutely trounced next year? Oh, I feel like I've got 12 months to get my static strength up. And that's what I really need for that show. So
yeah, but that, I mean, is there any element, because I know that obviously I don't know how big the world's strongest man competition, I think it still has that prestige worldwide. It certainly does from over here, but is that still, and that's going to be in where's that? It's California, Sacramento this year.
Myrtle Beach? Is it Sacramento?
I think it's Sacramento this year, yeah. But I know a lot of the guys who do the Giants live shows and things over here, and the Europe Strongest Man, they want to get the kind of, we spoke to Paddy Haynes a couple of weeks ago, like Pete said, who's doing the Europe Strongest Man in a couple of weeks. And then there's qualification places for the Worlds. I mean, is the World's Strongest Man, because I know Shane Flowers will be there, who obviously was at the Magnus with us. I think Evans Nana will be there as well. I think Mateusz Kieliszkowski will probably be out there. Is that something that you'd like to be involved in the future, going to the World's Strongest Man as well?
That's the goal, to get invited to the World's Strongest Man, to go compete as the world's strongest firefighter or world's strongest man. That is my goal.
Yeah, that would be incredible. Yeah, because the way they do it, don't they? There's sort of like 5 heats, you know. So you have heats, and then you qualify for the finals and things. So that would be incredible. Yeah, no, that would be fantastic. Wow. And in terms of your training yourself, I know that you're coached now, aren't you? Or you have been coached for a little while by Lawrence Charlet. How does that work for you? How's your relationship with Loz, and what does he do? Does he give you all your programming that you have to follow and things as well? Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about that maybe?
Yeah, I hired Laws last year after the Arnold when I got second. I lost that Arnold by a decimal point, just from a calculation error in my own head for one of the events. And so I wanted a coach that, the reason I hired Laws is because I saw him standing back there coaching other athletes. And I went, wow, that would be really beneficial for someone like me who, although calm and collected, I don't put a lot of effort into like keeping up with scores. And that's cost me some first place finishes before. So having somebody around me who could manage that and help me get out of my own head sometimes, especially with ego and all that needs to be dampened down just a tad bit. So I hired Laws, and I'd been doing all my programming before that, and I had a good idea. Things were working, obviously. I was winning contests. I was having a good time, but I would get pretty decimated as far as during the preps leading up to the contest. And after doing Laws's programming, I've realized that I was probably doing too much. But that was why I was progressing so quickly, because I was always in a prep and having to figure out how to get stronger during those time frames. And so what I was doing was kind of following that category, whereas Laws is having me prep for a contest, and that when we have our off season, we can do the muscle building and the strength building. So getting in with somebody who's done it before, done it for people like Mitch Hooper, just gives me a new perspective on what I was missing in my training. And as far as our relationship goes, like I love Laws. Getting to hang out with him at the Magnus was a really cool thing. And then I got to see him a bunch of the Arnold, and he came and coached us through, me and Jack and some of his other athletes at the Arnold. But just having him around and being able to bounce things off of him and having somebody take care of your programming, it's been nice.
Because like I suppose you say you've never had or you haven't had a training partner since you were back at school.
Nor any coach.
Was that or a coach? Yeah, nothing. So yeah, wow. So to get as far as you did, basically, solo, just doing everything yourself is fantastic. But now hopefully, like you say, Loz obviously coaches Mitch Hooper and a number of other top. He also coaches Sitting Bull UK, doesn't he, Pete? Who we've had on.
He does. Yeah, Matt Diamond as well, I think.
Matt Diamond as well now. Yeah. Yeah.
Who does he coach? Not Lucy. Was it someone the other lady?
Rebecca
Rebecca Roberts as well.
Yeah. It's like it's amazing. Everybody he trained.
And I think is it Andrea Thompson as well, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And Aaron Murray.
Aaron as well. Yeah.
Because I saw on his Instagram, because Andrea Thompson got the world record deadlift, and then Lucy went and broke it like straight after, didn't she? They were like doing that with each other because she got 307 or whatever. But what's interesting, though, I had a chat with Matt Diamond at at one of the disabled strongman things we're at, and I asked it because he said about getting Loz as a coach, and I said, what did he do differently? And he said he's got me doing less. Same thing. And I think that's a great message to people who are listening in, whether they're strong men, strong women or not, is I think most people try and do too much in one go. And it's like, just have a goal. Like your goal is like the loftiest of lofty goals, right? And Loz has got you doing less. And it's like, because it doesn't happen this year, it happens with what you do this year and it happens in the future. So I think that's just a great lesson for everybody. That someone at your level and all the levels of the people who Loz is training, because Matt got to Britain's Strongest Man. He competed in that for the first time this year, didn't he?
Yeah.
In Sheffield. Yeah. So, and he's 35 or something, you know what I mean? So he's like, again, he's older than Paddy and Shane and all that sort of stuff. But it's taken him all this time to get there. So, it's like, it's just a good message for people, I think. Yeah. Like people at your sort of level are still being told to just rein it in a little bit and it'll happen. I think no, but it's
it's true. It's totally true.
You know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
However, if you give it to someone else and just say they know better, or they can see things in you that you can't, sort of thing. Yes. They can see when you're tired, when your central nervous system's fried, all that, and you'd be like you mentioned ego earlier, like, no, it's all right, I'll just go and do it, and they might just say, do you know what, calm down, there's next year or whatever. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah. No, that's excellent. So how many? I know you said your training is regularly disrupted through that pesky thing called work. Where you're training at the fire station and you get called out and things. But how many kind of programmed sessions are you trying to do a week at the moment?
I work out every day, regardless, and the difference is the intensity and the movement specifically. So 4 days of a week is basically strongman. That's what Laws has me programmed on right now. And it's easy for me to hit that amount of time right now. Whenever it hits that 5-6 day window, which Laws has never put me on a 6 day window, we'll throw that out there first. But those 5 day windows are tough for me to get done because of work specifically. But I do things like kettlebells. I do tons of cardio. You want me to more conditioned fireman, especially one that weighs 340 pounds than me. I keep my VO2 max very high, and whenever we have fires, whenever we have long calls, there's nobody who's going to outpace me. At least not yet. Maybe when I break 40, we'll see what happens. But so every day for me is some sort of conditioning, some sort of recovery process, and all that stuff kind of plays into what I do. But 4 days is all I do for the strenuous exercise at this point, and then the rest of it is just how I feel. If I have one of those days, I'm like, man, I can really push a rowing workout today. I'll row 10,000 kilometers or 10,000 meters.
Mm.
And
Wow.
but like that's just fun for me, like to be able to push myself. I had coaches in high school tell me I would never be good at cardio, and I made sure to prove them wrong every step of the way.
Mm. No, this is great. And then I know you've also, have you still got your sauna outside at home? Yeah.
Sure do.
You said, I remember you were telling me you got it at Costco, didn't you, or something? Or
Sure did.
yeah. So for you, for recovery, what is sauna? I think is your favorite thing, is it to do?
Oh yeah, and my least favorite is the ice bath thing that we do at work, but we do that all together, and you see things that go back and forth on whether ice bathing is good for you, ice bathing's not. I keep up pretty substantially with my data. I use a Whoop.
Mm.
Keeps up with your recovery scores and stuff, and then it gives you recommendations based on the activities that you do of things that help or hurt. And
Mm.
ice bath has shown to have a 6% increase in recovery on my end. So
Mm.
whatever it's doing is helping. But
Mm.
also too, we use it as a bonding moment at the fire department. You know, everybody who gets in cold water, you have two choices. You either can just do the time you said you were going to do, or you can get right out, and everybody thinks you're a quitter. So, so
So
we
have you got
appreciate
like a
it when
big?
those
Have you
guys
got a
get
big
in.
one? Have you got a big one that you all can get in together at the same time?
No,
Or
not at the same time. No,
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 we
no,
do
no.
it one at a time. And, you know, we let each other talk and whatever while we're inside. I like to chat with whoever's sitting with me. That helps me take my mind off of it. But it seems like it's just one of those things that's, you know, you either can or you can't do it. So like it kind of brings out the grit in the firemen at the fire stations. So
Yeah.
sauna's easily my favorite. I walk every day and, you know, just try to eat right. And that's as good a recovery process as you can get.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And in terms of, I know we're kind of coming to the end of our time with you, but in terms of nutrition and food and you know, like you said, you're a big strong guy, and you've got a physical job as well, and you're training every day. I mean, what kind of calorie number do you kind of hit every day? Do you track calories? Do you just know roughly how much you eat in terms of volume? I mean, how does that work for you?
I'm pretty mindful of what I do because I can gain and lose weight pretty quickly by accident. Whenever I'm on gaining times, I'll eat around 5,500 calories, and then when I'm in the end of prep, I've been as high as 9,000 to 10,000 calories of food, and that's basically just eating all day long. And it is essentially the Brian Shaw way of getting ready for contests, loading all those carbohydrates. But because of my job, I eat carbohydrates probably a lot more than most athletes do, and I eat a lot more of them. So I'm typically around 200 to 300 grams of carbohydrates a day. That is just to keep, because carbohydrates is king, right? That's where your energy comes from. That's how you can make sure you're always at, you know, a primed and ready state. I don't want to rely on fat burning to be my source of
Mm.
energy if I have to go to a fire, if I have to go to an extended extrication, or just go into anybody's bad day. So, but my nutrition is really simple. I'm a meat, rice, vegetable kind of guy. I don't not eat vegetables. I love vegetables. I eat salads all the time. Love fruit. I also love ice cream, but that is not one of my main staples. That is treat food. Every now and then I get to treat myself with an ice cream. So
I was going to say, if you want to get 9,000 calories in, like you used to work at the butter factory, it seemed like you worked there for a while, so
oh,
you could just do a deal with them and it would be dead easy.
but butter is that was all fake butter. That's probably the term would be margarine, maybe.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not the good butter, and I can't smell that stuff anymore without just getting my stomach turned.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that place absolutely killed me. No, I like real butter.
Yeah. So I was going to say,
Yeah.
well, I know when we were in Iceland at the Viking Hotel for breakfast, and they had the waffle maker, didn't they? And you used to have the waffles and the pancakes, and because obviously you got all the competition to do that day. So yeah, you need as much of that as you can. Yeah.
Yeah, before every competition, I'm trying to get 150 to 200 grams of those carbs in, and then try to eat 100 grams of carbs after each event. That
Yeah.
seems to be a good place for me to maintain optimal output.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. No, that's great. Well, it's been. Oh, I did have one question for you, which is something you might not actually know the answer to, but you might do because I saw you doing the at the Arnold's. You were doing the barrel over the yoke, I think, and I
Yeah.
think you had like a 450. Would it be 450 pounds and 525 pounds?
Yeah, 525 pounds was the biggest one I did.
Yeah. Wow. So again, just bear with me a second, listeners. Uh, So that's a 240 kilo barrel. Um, and they didn't look like massive barrels. So it's a practical question for you. How do you get a barrel to weigh that much? Because I've got some events coming up and I've got barrels and I fill them with water. And obviously, like a litre of water is a kilo. So
Yeah.
if it's a 50-litre barrel, it can be 50 kilos. Now, I need to get barrels nowhere near as heavy as you, but I need to be doing it with barrels like 85 kilos, yeah? Where I've got to kind of do some, pick up 3, run, put them over a yoke. And I've got some empty barrels. And I'm thinking, how do I get the barrels to weigh that much? Do you fill them with sand and then water, or what do you do?
Sand, lead, or steel shot. What you want to do is whatever medium you're going to use, look at the cubic feet per pound. So that's how you decide if you have enough space to fill an object. So like sand is like, I'm just going to make up a number here just so you kind of have an understanding.
Yeah.
For like a half a cubic meter would be 50 pounds. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's, but whenever you talk about steel shot, a half a cubic a half a cubic meter would be like 150 pounds.
Ah,
That
okay.
makes sense?
Yeah. So I'm thinking like steel shot or maybe like pebbles, like small
They
stones.
the pea gravel stuff like that. You just have to
Gravel.
look at like those. They come in those like half-meter bags,
Yeah.
and just look and see like how much it is to how much it weighs, and that should give you your idea.
Excellent. That's not for anyone else listening. That's
I was going to
okay.
say, I would say just use mercury. That'd be all right. Wouldn't it? Fill it full of mercury. And then you wouldn't want to drop it, would you? You'd be like, oh, blimey.
No, because I was thinking, do you put sand and then put water in with the sand so it all gets
I
really
think
heavy, or
I think I think most of them are using for those really heavy kegs. They were putting in some sort of steel shot or lead shot, and then filling all the crevices with sand.
Ah, okay, okay.
And then what
Brilliant.
you could do, James, is fill your one with Maltesers, and then it'll be lighter than air.
Don't be that. Yeah, Martin, did you have Maltesers in America, Andrew?
What's a Maltese?
Oh, a Malteser. No, he doesn't. It's like it's a confectionery. It's like a sweet. It's like a honeycomb ball, covered in chocolate. So it's
Oh.
like it's really, really light because it's mainly air. That's but
They advertise it over here as being lighter than air. So you eat one and it makes you lighter.
but yeah, it didn't
And
really
they get away with doing that as well.
didn't really translate over, but that's okay. Yeah. Cool. No, that's brilliant. That's interesting. Yeah, that's good. That's great. And so one thing I was going to ask, do you think, because obviously Colin Bryce was out in Iceland as well, and he runs obviously Giants Live and runs the World's Strongest Man and things. Do you think there'd be any opportunities for you to get invited over here to do any of the Giants Live sort of events and things like that in the future?
Probably not from the Magnus just at this point. I feel like I'd have got that call by now. And Colin was at OSG and got to watch me completely flop. So,
Oh, okay.
so I mean, it's just he. I get it from his perspective. He doesn't seem very consistent. I can't say much.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
But I would love to compete at Giants Live.
yeah, but no, it'd be great. Yeah, it'd be amazing to have you over here doing some of those. But no, that's fantastic. And yeah, like you say, so what is the next thing for you then? You obviously just won a couple of weeks back. Have you got another comp in the diary for this year coming up, or?
August, we've got the Shaw Open, so I'll be competing again to get into the Shaw Classic.
Okay.
And end of the year OSG. So we'll see what happens on the in between of that. I'm thinking the Magnus, the time frame of that's just not going to work if I'm going to do OSG and try to get into that next level of shows. I probably won't be able to do the Magnus again, and then we'll see where America's Strongest Man falls into this.
Yeah, because I suppose if you were to do the Magnus again and then the
It'd be the same
OSG,
results.
you might just have the same thing happen that's happened last year. Yes, you've got to prioritize. Yeah.
Then they can call me insane.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Andrew. I mean, since I met you, your kind of your social media is picking up, and I see lots of videos and stuff on Instagram and things for you. So if people do want to follow you and kind of follow your journey in Strongman, what are you most active on? Would it be YouTube, or would it be Instagram? Where would you want people to go?
Instagram right now is what I'm doing. I just, because I have essentially two full-time jobs, I can't dedicate as much time to social media as other people can. So the YouTube's kind of just on the back burner for me, but I'd like to get back to it eventually. But right now, Instagram is the main place that I do social media.
Yeah, and that's where you put lots of videos. There's loads of videos on there, obviously from the Arnolds and stuff. So that's A Burton 428. Yeah, is on Instagram. Yeah, what's the 428? Is there any relevance to that?
Actually, the story's from my Boy Scout time. I was a Boy Scout back in the day. Got my Eagle Scout, and within that organization, there is a honored camper society called the Order of the Arrow, and that was what our lodge number was. So I attained the highest rank in that honored camper, which is called Vigil. And so I very much liked that organization. I actually served it for, I think, 5 years as a leader. And so it's just always been a special number for me.
Excellent. So A Burton 428 on Instagram is great. And then I know you're sponsored by. Are you still sponsored by Cerberus? Yeah. So if you're listening, I don't know if because I've got a friend actually. You need to. Do you think your code would just be working in the US? It might not work in the UK as well, or.
I contact Ken and get back to you on that one. I'm not sure, because Ken runs the US section of here. I'm not sure if my code works on the.
Oh no, that's okay. No, just a bit. Yeah, so you're sponsored by Cerberus. So if you go onto Andrew's Instagram and go onto click on his bio, there's a code in there for Cerberus and things. There's also links to YouTube and everything on there that you can follow Andrew and his career going forwards. Thank you so much. Are you working today, or are you off work today?
I'll be at work tomorrow morning about 4:30 in the morning.
Okay. So are you going to be training today? So if you're not training at work, you train at home, do you?
Yeah, I've got a gym that I go to. I've got multiple gyms I go to when I'm doing event training, but the main one I go to is called Legends Fit in Rockwall. My city pays for my membership there, so it's just easy place to drive to, and it's got a lot of really nice people in it. So
excellent, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Andrew, for giving your time this morning. It's been really great, and I look forward to seeing what you do over the coming year, and we'll obviously stay in touch, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up in person some stage in the future at an event somewhere, I'm sure. So thank you everybody for listening and for watching, and thank you massively for Andrew joining us from Texas. Thank you for Mr. Peter Lant, as always. And
That's all right.
And next week we're going to be joined by another gentleman from America, from Northern California, called Mike Tiktinsky, who is 78 years old, 2 knee replacements, and is a powerlifter and holds state records and things in powerlifting, and still lifting at 78. So he's going to be with us next week from Northern California. So I've had to check my times with him as well. In fact, yeah. Don't worry, I'll do this off air. I'll do the maps off air with the times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not nice.
Doesn't make for good podcast.
Doesn't make for good podcasting. My brain ticking over. Anyway, please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to do so. Especially Apple Podcast is where we're trying to get our reviews up. That was great. Follow Andrew. Go onto A Burton 428 on Instagram and give him a follow. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com, or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.